for coming to the community track, and I literally can't see anything. Well, yeah, it's great to see everyone here. Lots of friendly faces. This is our second year at Silicon Slopes. Obviously, a new location, which has been really fun for all of us, and just absolutely love this venue. And we're going to spend about 45 minutes together today. I'll talk at you for about a half an hour, and then we'll have about 10 or 15 minutes for you guys to ask questions and share your own experiences around how you've used digital communities to help drive products for you. And I'm going to really focus on what happens when people share each other's work and information within their communities. So feel free to take pictures. If you want to share them on LinkedIn or Instagram, connect with me there. It'd be great to hear your stories even after the presentation. So just a little bit of background on me. I've basically been doing custom applications development for my entire career, which started a little bit earlier than usual. So I was very lucky, and in college got an internship with a company called Remedy, and they had basically the first rendition of a low-code application development platform. And it was really serendipitous because we were in the middle of the dot-com boom, and people were looking for ways to build applications without the need for developers. And so they had these really rudimentary tools which allowed you to do that. And I spent about 10 years doing that and built applications for little companies like Wells Fargo and Charles Schwab, Flextronics, organizations that were kind of at the forefront of innovation at the time. And then from there I went to a number of other low-code and no-code companies, which were always bringing a new level of innovation to their communities. And the problem with all of these companies was that I found that we really couldn't help a very specific community, which was near and dear to my heart, which was the entrepreneurial community. And so I was always looking for a way that we could engage that community in helping them build digital products for their constituents, for their customers, helping them launch businesses. And well, somebody's having a little fun. Should we fight back? Yeah, I love it. Thank you. So, when we think about using communities for digital products, what we're really talking about is how do you build a community around your product that can offer benefits to that community, really taking a look at what are the personas in the community, because as you think about the different personas in your community, you can really gauge how to deliver good content and good value to those individual personas, and then thinking about how do you get that high value content that actually drives engagement and allows people to be getting a lot of value out of those digital products. And the one thing that you really can't escape is that the value of your community is really coming from the people that are in your community. And all of these things are really great. I mean, these are just the basics that you need on keeping your members engaged and in the right place, and really figuring out what they need to be able to get value from the work that you're doing. And so as we kind of think about what the real impact is of communities in each of our organizations, there have been a ton of studies done around what different communities can do for organizations. So there's a report that was put out in 2022 by the community industry, which said that 87% of managers and executives around the world agree that communities are critical to a company's mission, and 80% of them believe that they benefited from the impact on their objectives themselves. And so when we think about what a community can do for you, the first two of these are pretty obvious, right? Everybody looks at communities around products and think about the fact that they can have advocacy and that they can drive loyalty. But I'm going to kind of switch gears just a little bit here and talk about something that people don't often think about when they think about digital communities. And that's the fact that they can actually help you build better digital products, right? So this is how can you take your community of users and people that are in your ecosystem, and how can you turn them into an army of testers for you and people that will give you feedback, UX experts that will tell you whether the way in which you've built your applications is really beneficial to them. And how do you take those people and their feedback and actually put it into your product roadmap in a way that is not going to detract from the thought that you had and the vision that you had in building your applications. And so we're going to be a little bit selfish here. I imagine a lot of you are in the process of building an application or have thought about building an application in the process of launching a business around a digital asset. I know this for a fact because I recognize faces from conversations that we've had, and I know that a bunch of you are in the process of either getting funding or launching businesses that impact communities and build digital products. The reason that this is really near and dear to my heart, I'll just give you a little bit of background about what we do at Builder. And really what we're trying to do is create a product that is going to enable people to build applications cheaper, faster, and with less risk. And we're creating what we consider an outlier category. It's something that Gartner puts out there as a dramatically different approach. And I don't know if all of you are familiar with Gartner, so I'll just give you a little bit of background on them, but they're an industry analyst that helps CIOs, CTOs, CEOs really make decisions around technology, and they give really balanced advice based on your specific constraints on what you should do and where you should put your money to work. And they call us a dramatically different approach, which is really exciting for us, but what they're referring to is not just the technology, but they're also referring to the commercial model that we have. Sorry guys, I lost the notes over here. And so, that's been really validating, but the part that's been even more validating for us is that based on what we've brought to market over the last couple of years, we've actually become one of the fastest companies to get to $100 million worth of revenue. And this is absolutely a testament to our ability to work with entrepreneurs and people that are entrepreneurially minded, even in larger companies. And what that's led to is an ability for us to put together a large amount of investment that we put back into the community. So if you think about somebody who's trying to build an application, what you find is that there's a lot of risk in doing so. You typically need to be able to put together a team of developers and designers. You need a project manager that's going to manage all of that for you. And then the other thing that happens is there's something called scope creep, which is, a really, really bad word. I guess it's technically a phrase. But what that means is that you start in one place and it grows. You end up trying to include a lot more. There's a lot of rework that ends up happening, and your project ends up being one that ends up potentially failing. And so we're really trying to solve this problem for entrepreneurs, where we want to make it easier for them to be able to make changes as they get information back from their communities, as they get feedback back from their communities, and want to make either additions, changes, and do so without having to impact their code base in a really negative way. So what does this really mean? This means that as we think about the alternatives of how you build applications, we want to make it so that you can build these applications without writing a single line of code. And so what we have is a platform that uses artificial intelligence and pre-coded building blocks, and it takes all the boring work out of building your application, right? So if you think about most applications, 80% of them are really common, right? It's boring stuff like login screens and admin panels and things that don't really add a lot of value, aren't unique to your application, aren't the thing that make people want to use your application. So why are we building those things over and over and over again? Why are we paying for those things to be maintained in a manner that takes forever and takes up a lot of cost? And there's no certainty in how you build these applications, because the people that do them for you are kind of like attorneys, right? Like they bill by the hour, and there's really no benefit to them to completing your work faster. And so what we want to do is take all of that risk off of our communities, right, which are the entrepreneurs, and give them the ability to really focus on their idea instead of focusing on the tech stack. So think of us as insurance for software development. You know exactly what you're going to get as soon as you're ready to go. And there's a couple of great stories that I want to tell around this, and if you're around tomorrow, we've got a fireside chat with two very cool customers of mine. One is Robert Coyne from Serhant, which is the fastest growing luxury real estate company in the country. And then the other is Sam Taggart of D2D Experts. And what they have both found is that going from working with a traditional dev shop to working with Builder just makes it so that they can think about the changes that they want to make and really think about the value that they want to provide to their communities over thinking about managing these large waterfall projects. And the vision that we have is that everyone should be able to just think about an application, build it, and deploy it within a day, right? And we're a long ways from that vision. You know, we're at this point where we can build applications in weeks, which is already pretty quick. But we really want to get to the point where you could do it in a day, and just imagine for a moment what you could do if you could build applications that fast, right? If you could really move at the speed of thought. Okay, so we're in the midst of this massive move right now where people are trying to get away from these centralized, monolithic IT departments that deliver all of your innovation. And this is true for enterprises as much as it's true for entrepreneurs. So we work with a ton of entrepreneurs now that no longer hire or partner with a CTO, right? What they want to do is they want to really be able to drive out business innovation as quickly as they can. And we think about this as the idea of innovation from the edge, right? This is no longer innovation that's fully planned out. It's more about the fact that they can implement change very quickly, get feedback from their digital communities, and then find ways to give them the biggest benefit that they can. And as we all know, the needs of those communities change over time. And so your answer to them, your applications, your digital assets, all of those need to be able to change with them. And so if you look at the fact that by 2024, less than 35% of applications are going to be built by centralized IT teams, you know, quick math, that means 65% are going to be built by people at the edge. These are business people, entrepreneurs, those that don't have technology degrees and don't really have the background, or do they want the background in having to think through, you know, I need a designer, I need a developer, I need to go waterfall versus agile, I need to build out business requirement documents, all the things that go into building these applications. You know, there's just less and less need for it as time goes on. So this is exactly why we've invested in the entrepreneurial community, because for us, it's really the future of how decisions are going to be made and how those projects are going to be executed. And so as you kind of think about how to connect your core team with your community, let's just think about the definition of that for a second, right? So, you know, one way of thinking about community is a group of people living in the same place. But another way of thinking about community is a group of people that have similar attitudes and interests in common. And so what we want to do is we want you to be able to build digital assets that basically go and cater to you know, any community that you have that could be people that are living in the same place. So think about apps like Nextdoor, right? Or people that have, you know, shared attitudes and understanding, and, you know, want to be able to engage in those activities regardless of geographic barriers. So one great example that I wanted to bring up to you is D2D Experts. So we met Sam Taggart last year at Silicon Slopes here. And we had this great conversation with Sam where he said, hey, I've tried to build applications many times, and I don't know, we just can't seem to make them happen on the pace that we want them to happen. Anytime I want to change anything, it's tens of thousands of dollars, and it takes months for us to do them. And I have all of these great ideas that I want to put into play with money that I'm making from my business, and I want to launch other businesses. And we talked to him about the fact that we could help him build these applications and that we had most of it already pre-built. And he really liked this idea. He said, okay, well, so if I understand this correctly, a lot of this stuff is pre-coded and you're just basically pulling it together, and then we can make modifications as we go so that we can help the community engage with this product in the way that we want them to. I said, yeah, that's exactly right. And he said, okay, well, so what happens if I want to make additions to the application? And we said, yeah, that's totally fine. We can help you add features. And what happens if I want to modify those features? Yeah, we can totally do that as well. So, when Sam started with us, he had an application that was 30 features, which is a pretty small application for us. But it sort of encapsulated everything that he wanted to do around a learning management system. And then, he started calling us every few weeks, and he would say, hey, I had a conversation with one of my constituents, and they had this really great idea that I hadn't thought about before. And we said, yeah, we can absolutely help you build that out. So, as Sam kind of puts it, he sits over in one seat as a business owner and really thinks about what would be best for his community, but then he puts on a different hat and he goes over here and he sits down in a different seat and he says, hey, if I am a coach, not somebody who's going to use my learning management system, how am I going to think about this? And then he goes over here and he sits in a different seat and he says, hey, if I'm a business owner and I want my employees using this, how does that change the way that I'm doing this? And as he's having this conversation, he keeps coming back to us, adding more features and changing the way that his application is going to work without impact to the features that got him there in the first place. So if you guys are around tomorrow, Sam is going to be on stage with me, and we're going to talk in more detail about his experience in building applications and his experience in being able to work with us to really go after his community, which is the door-to-door world, and being able to train them and coach them and do all kinds of things. They're also doing demos of his application up at their booth, which is right outside that door on the left there. And as you kind of think about what that means, it means don't narrow your focus on what community can do for you. Community can help you build the application. It can help you enhance the application. Community can help you think through different business models that are going to be beneficial to the rest of the community. I mean, think about the fact that 10 years ago we all used to buy software, and now we kind of decided we don't want to buy software anymore. We just want to rent it, right? That's where software as a service kind of came from, was this idea that I don't want to have some huge upfront cost, and all the software providers in the world sort of changed the way that they were going to bring products to market as a result of that. And so here's an example of what we've been able to do for Sam. This is a subscription business that he's bringing to the market, and something that he can really engage with his community on. So, how many of you recognize these icons? So these are obviously some iconic companies that are community driven, right? These are examples of tools that we use every single day just to engage with other people in the community. So these are the Facebooks and the Instagrams of the world, Slack, and then there's a new one on here that a lot of you might not recognize, and it's a little bit different from the rest of them. When we think about Facebook, Facebook's been one of the best organizations out there with respect to using user data to change their roadmap, right? So they do things like pop-up surveys, and they're doing in-app tracking for user behavior to really build into their roadmap what the community is going to need and how they're going to want to use that technology. Instagram is also really interesting from that perspective because they're always tweaking their algorithm for how you're going to see content. Like what content are you going to see? How long are you going to see it for? Who are you connected with? And they're always using user feedback to do that as well. Slack is a really interesting one as well. Before a couple of years ago, I'd never used Slack. I'd never heard of Slack before. And it was kind of created accidentally, right? It was created by a number of developers that basically were looking for a way to communicate amongst themselves. And now all of us use Slack all day, every day with hundreds of different channels. And I mean, it's wild how fast the world has changed around that. And Slack is one of those companies that uses user feedback all the time to continue enhancing the way that their product works. So, which brings me to the last one, and this is the one that's really interesting for me. So, I can understand, and I'm sure you can too, that when we look at low-risk social networks like Facebook or Instagram or Slack, nothing bad's going to happen if the network doesn't work perfectly, right? Like we're always going to be iterating on those platforms and making those work better and better for everyone. But Monzo is actually a really interesting use case in taking feedback from communities. It's actually a fintech, so it's a bank, and their beta testers are their users, right? So they put product out that actually impacts dollars and cents, right? So they put product out that's your checking account, your debit card, your savings account, and things of that nature. And then they're using feedback from their customers in a live environment to be able to enhance exactly what people are looking for. What are the best ways that people can engage with their bank? What are the features that they want? Where do they want the bank to prioritize what it is that they're going to get from that organization? And so essentially, Monzo has taken their whole host of customers and turned them into these beta testers that can request features, that can go out and try out everything that they want them to do. And obviously they do it in a pretty safe manner, right? Because they're a regulated industry and they can't put things out that are going to potentially lose money for people. But it's a really great testing ground for people where they can take these products that are even in a regulated space and be able to do that. And so, I think to bring this entire thing kind of full circle, the idea that regardless of where you are in your cycle, where you are in fleshing out your idea and developing your application or your product and what you want to take to market, there are a number of ways that you can leverage your community, right? You can use your vendors and your workforce in order to be able to get feedback on how people want to engage with your platform. You can take your community of users and turn them into testers for you, and you can use them to continuously get feedback. So just going back to the example of how we started to engage with Sam, Sam was looking for someone who genuinely cared about him getting the product that he wanted. And for us, it goes back to our commercial model, right? So we don't contract with you and say, hey, you're buying a bucket of hours or you're buying a specific software product that you'll then have to go customize. We've put ourselves right alongside of you. Instead of being across the table from you, we're sitting right alongside of you because we're obligated to deliver for you whatever it is that your hopes and dreams are, right? You come in and you say, hey, I really want to launch an application that's X, and that's what we're going to work on with you. And we don't stop until we're done. And it doesn't matter if it ends up taking us longer, we have to put more designers or developers on it. It really just puts us in a model where we're aligned with our community and with our customers. And we want to help drive that innovation in all of their digital assets and in their applications. So don't feel as though you can't share your applications with your customers until they're perfect, right? I don't know when Gmail finally went off beta, but I think it was actually not that long ago. It was beta for 15 years or something like that? Yeah, it was great. So if they can do it, you can do it too. And if companies that are in regulated industries can do it, you can do it too. So keep it going. Launching an app is just the beginning, right? You always have an open channel for feedback around your ideas. Just think about the options that you have in how to get that feedback from people and what they're going to be invested in, right? So as long as they feel that they're being heard, and as long as they feel that they are getting value from engaging in the community and being part of that application, they're going to continue to do that as well. All right. So I have a community challenge for all of you. And so we practice what we preach. We're right outside the left door here, and if you come over and talk to us about the idea that you have around building a digital asset, we would love to find out if we have a solution for you, and I'm pretty sure that we will. We can build you a prototype in an instant. All we need to know is what your idea is, have you spend a few minutes with our team. All of this happens using natural language processing. So if you haven't played with an AI bot, you should come over and see this. It's actually pretty cool. Our AI is called Natasha. And Natasha will literally have a conversation with you, understand what your application is trying to do, suggest features for you, tell you how much it's going to cost, tell you how long it's going to take. And at the end of the day, just manage your entire project for you. And we just think about software development a little bit differently. Most software development projects have project managers that you work with because it's all about the execution of that project. But we want to help you execute on your idea, not on your project, right? The project is sort of like the nuts and bolts that get you the application. For us, it starts way before that. For us, it's about the conversation around your business and how can we help you really flesh out your idea the best. And so everything that we think about is from a product lens, not from a project lens. So when you sit down with one of our teams, you're sitting down with a product owner that we call a productologist. I know, it's kind of a weird name, but we love it because we're just trying to do something different. And so we don't want people to think about this in the old parlance. So we'd love to have you come by and talk to us about ideas that you have and see what we might be able to do for you. And while you're up there, Robert Fogarty from Deer World is also doing portraits for everyone. So you can come have your portrait taken. You can use it for headshots or whatever you want to use it for. He does amazing, great work. And you can come up and take a look at Builder and TTD as well. And with that, I'll open up to questions for anybody that might have some. Nagine's going to come around with a mic for anybody that wants to ask anything. What's that? Yeah, so the question is whether we work with existing products. It depends on what you want us to do with it. If you want us to build new modules around an existing product, that's no problem. We typically won't modify other people's code. Like that's really where a dev shop's gonna shine. But for us, it's about building things on our stack because that's where you really get the value from Builder.
Is there a client that is too small for you guys? Is there a budget number that, when looking for a prospect or something, what is the ideal client size? I mean, are we too small or too big, or what's your budget size that you're looking for software development projects?
Yeah, that's a great question. So part of the problem with describing for people what we do at Builder is that we really have become kind of all things to all people. So we work with entrepreneurs who have a side gig, right? They've got an idea, they've got a full-time job, but they're trying to get something going on the side. They want to build V1 of their application. And then we work with, on the other end of the spectrum, multinational, multi-billion-dollar organizations that want to build applications to run all of their infrastructure, and everything in between. And as a result of that, what we've done is we've actually shrunk the amount of money that you need to be able to get started with us. For our custom projects, typically we say they start around $15,000 to $20,000, but we have other applications that get started even lower than that. So for our SMB customers, we're able to get them started in the $3,000 to $5,000 range as well.
How do you make sure you're keeping differentiation and uniqueness in these applications despite all the preset libraries and widgets?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So the way that works is that we have a library of 600 pre-coded building blocks. And those building blocks have a common code block and they have a custom code block. And the common code block allows us to get the speed and efficiency. And the custom code block allows us to give you exactly what you're looking for. So if you think about, a really simplistic example like Google Login or something like that, all of the underpinnings of the way that Google Login is going to work for your application is all in the common code block. But the look and feel and exactly how that's going to function from your application, that's all part of the custom code block. And so we can modify the custom code block while maintaining the common code. And then whenever Google changes the way that their API works or anything like that, we only have to change it in one place and it affects change across thousands of customers that are using it.
So how do you accommodate for change management?
Yeah, great question. So our delivery team works in an agile environment. But in addition to working in an agile environment, we've actually built all of the underpinnings of what we use for the software development stack from the ground up. So we actually don't use any commercially available technologies to manage our software development process. And we provide visibility all the way from your order, right, which we say is as easy as ordering pizza, it really is, everywhere from your order all the way down to the delivery process. And you're going to meet with your team, right, which is our product owners, our productologists, and everyone in that cycle on a bi-weekly or weekly basis, depending on how fast your project is moving, in order to be able to see what impact is happening to your project on a regular basis. And so you'll go through and you'll have designs to accept, you'll have functionality to test, bugs to report, and things like that. And all of that happens in our tech stack that you get access to once you sign on.
Hi, I know we already had an opportunity to talk with your team over at the table, but it doesn't seem like the question's been asked yet. What does tech support look like on an ongoing basis after that app is launched, so I don't have to be the one doing it?
That's a fantastic question. So we offer actually two types of tech support. One is just purely maintenance, right, which is something you'd expect from everyone that builds an application for you. The difference with us is that it's going to come at a firm fixed price. So if we build an application for you, we'll tell you exactly what it's going to cost for us to help maintain it, do bug fixes and things like that, without knowing either A, how complex it is, or B, how many bugs are going to come through that. So we give you that firm fixed price regardless of knowing that. But we've actually taken that thought process one step further. And so what we've done with this is we've given you an enhancement package on top of that. And so we enable you to be able to actually change everything in your applications on a quarterly basis, so that as you get feedback from your communities or you want to add features, you want to modify features, you can do that at no additional cost. And so we've got a team that's constantly working on the common code blocks that we were talking about a little minute ago. And then we have a team that's dedicated to you that's going to work on enhancing your application and making sure that it continues to function the way that you want it to function.
Are there any more audience questions? Okay, Shalab, I have one question for you.
Shoot.
So a lot of the products, or the products that you had up, their main product that they give out to their customers is the technology. How do you think about feedback and getting that user feedback when the main product is not this digital asset?
When you think about the community being the product, it's less about the the functionality in the application. It's more about the community that you create and the ideas that they want to share amongst themselves. And I think there we kind of go back to the idea of really understanding the personas that are in your community and understanding what it is that they need. And as you understand what it is they need, being able to provide that in a way that connects those community members together so that they can really focus on the needs that they have versus the needs that the rest of the community has as well.
Okay, any last questions? No? Everyone, please give a please give a loud round of applause for Shalab Munat. Thank you so much for your time.